We've all been there. We've all done that. Everyone is guilty of it. You, me, Tom Brady. When our coworkers, friends, or even family ask us how we're doing, most of the time the response is the same. Good. Fine. Not bad. Can't complain. Even if that isn't true. I think a part of that is because we wear the uniform and we're supposed to be robotic, aren't we? We're not supposed to show emotion, or complain, or even vent a little. That's a sign of weakness. Except, it isn't. This is the 40th episode of the MAINEiac radio show. I'm Master Sergeant Andy Sinclair, and in this episode we have a guest who's going to explain that concept a little deeper. A concept that we as a total force have practiced for years, but haven't quite perfected it yet. A concept that entices us to look past those generic responses. The wingman concept. Chaplain Dave Michaud wants to share a message with the rest of us that continues the push for resiliency and taking care of each other. Colonel Roy mentioned back in September that when it comes to resiliency, he's not looking to check a box. We're in it for the long haul. The message that Chaplain Michaud shares is powerful, it's meaningful, and it'll open your eyes a little more to making sure our airmen are doing all right. Here's Senior Master Sergeant Duplain and Chaplain Michaud.
Good morning, everyone. This is Senior Master Sergeant John Duplain. I'm with Chaplain Michaud. For those of you that don't know him, he's works down at the chapel, works with Chaplain Bach, Chaplain, help me out. Marquis.
Yeah, and myself, 3 chaplains.
Yeah. I happened to run into Chaplain Michaud at our stand-up on Saturday. And I said, hey, I was thinking about that. He told us a story he shared with us a couple drills ago. And I said, geez, that was a really interesting story. And I think other people could benefit from maybe hearing that. So I asked you if you wouldn't mind coming up and talking to us about it on the podcast. So, and of course, being the good chaplain that he is, he agreed, and yeah, so he made his way up, and he actually is doing a couple of days this week. So it all worked out well. So, thanks, Chaplain, for coming. I think this is your debut on the podcast.
Well, it is. Well, thank you. It's good to be here. Glad I could come up and share with you guys. And yeah, it is my debut on the podcast. So. Hopefully it'll go well.
Well, we always say that you have a face for radio, so.
Everyone does, right?
Right, yeah. No, absolutely. I'm just teasing. But yeah, no, really though, we do appreciate it. And I think we, when we talk about resiliency and things of those nature, that we're kind of continuing to talk about those things and to make sure that through every month or every few months that we're still touching on that and making sure that people are thinking about those types of things, because I know we're getting into inspection season between now and April, right? So people really get focused on that type of stuff.
They do. But the care for people never stops, no matter, if we're in the holiday season or out of it or going to get exercises or whatever. We still need to be watching over and caring for people. So.
Yeah, and based on that, we're seeing a lot more chaplains out here, right? You guys
we are. Yeah, at the direction of the wing commander, we're trying to get more of a presence out here to help with folks. People go through difficult times, and not everyone is willing to say so. So sometimes it takes the personal and private, encounter with folks to really check on them and see where they're really at. Right. Yeah, and it's nice too that it doesn't always have to fit into that drill schedule if I want to get a hold of you now that you're out and about and Right.
wandering around the base.
Yeah, in the drill time, really, we find people are more hesitant because they feel a lot of pressure to accomplish so much, especially the traditional guardsman who comes in, has 2 8-hour days to accomplish, a month's worth of stuff, and they're not always willing to take the time out to talk with the chaplain to an extended period of time.
Yeah.
So it's good to be out here to be able to catch up with those kind of folks.
No, it makes sense. I mean, again, we definitely want to stay focused on mission, but we also don't want to lose that part of it. So that's a good point here. part of this resiliency is just having you come on and kind of sharing that. So again, other people can kind of hear that story, because I thought it was interesting. And it's actually had a personal kind of take for you as well, which is, kind of you opening up, putting yourself out there as well. So.
Yeah, well, you do find yourself, especially if you're on the caregiver side, that you want to focus in on people, but you find that you fall into the trap that a lot of us do, where we maybe superficially check on people, and we might ask the questions, but we're not listening to the answers. I think it was the holiday party that we were having, and we had one for Wing Agency, and I had an opportunity just to address the Wing Agency and kind of shared a personal story, just to help the folks to realize that when they check on folks or ask the question, how you doing, ask it and mean it, because people, if they don't think you mean it, they're going to give you the standard answer, which is usually, someone says, you meet in the hall, you go by, one person always says, how you doing? The other person says, fine. And that's just what we do. Even if the person asking really doesn't want to know or care, they still ask. And the other person that says fine may be or may not be, but we expect the standard exchange. And I think it was, I was working as a civilian pastor in my own church, and very much the same thing. You have, folks that attend your church, and there's the expectation that you care for them and watch out for them, and you check on their souls and where they're at in life and all that, and you have the standard exchange, especially at the end of a service. You always say to folks, so how you doing, you get the answer you want to hear, which is good, fine, and you go home and think that you've done your job because everyone in the church is fine. But when you think about that, how is it possible for 100, 150 people to all be fine? So, but you think you've done your job, and you got the answers you wanted. You asked the standard question and really not expecting or wanting to hear anything different than fine. But until there was a situation in my own life that I was going through, and I can't even remember what it was. Probably, I think. Yeah, my wife had a miscarriage early in our relationship, and I remember being at church, and this is when it struck me that I was doing the wrong thing, is that people would ask me, how you doing? And I would give them the standard answer that I'm doing fine, doing good. And knowing that, down deep in my own heart and in my own soul and my own feelings, we were struggling through the loss of a first pregnancy, was going to be our first child, and my wife miscarried on that. And we really weren't doing fine, but yet I would tell everybody that we're doing fine. It was that thing that really changed the focus of my pastoral ministry towards people. Is, I don't like anymore to just give the standard greeting of how you doing, and expecting the standard answer. Now when I talk to folks, I'll say, how you doing? And they'll say, fine. And I usually come back with the answer, really? Really? Is that really how you're doing? Because I really want to know. Because people are going to tell you what they think you want to hear. And even though they may be struggling with a lot of personal things, personal issues, they want to, before they're going to share, they're going to really want to know that you care. Right. And so sometimes you really got to ask how you doing and mean it. Yeah. And ask them again, no, really, how you doing? And when you do that second approach, that's when people will stop and say, whoa, wait a minute. He really wants to know, and that's when they'll open up and share. So that's kind of the story that I told at the holiday party.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I think back too that as we're kind of going through that, when you ask that second question, I may not give you everything then. But then you may have something where you say, oh, I'm going to swing back into PA. I'm going to check on John maybe during the week because I'm in, and do that follow-up and maybe at a better time.
It's like taking a highlighter. When we work through words, we highlight, right? Well, you do the same thing with people. You may not engage right then, but that second question where they hesitated with their answer or looked at you in a certain way where by asking again how you doing, and they couldn't come back with the standard
Right.
It's
Yeah.
like running a highlight through the word, and you're right. You get
Yeah.
back to them later, you talk to them later.
Yeah.
Because it may not be opportune time right then. So.
No, and I thought that was great advice because, I think to myself, almost guilty about it. If a chaplain can go through the motions of doing it, then I'm going to be okay when I do it too sometimes, and I'm busy
Right.
or I see someone in stand-up or
Right.
I'm getting ready for drill weekend and everyone kind of comes in and I say, hey, how was your month or this, that, or the other. So,
And all leaders want to take care of their people, I think, whether you're talking about chaplains or commanders or first sergeants or whatever. And so they want to engage, and they engage with the how you doing. And my advice to them would be, when people just give you the standard fine, don't always take that as being gospel truth, because usually people are telling you what they think you want to hear until they know that you really care. And they're only going to know you really care when you ask the second time. No, really, how are you doing? Because I really want to know.
yeah, no, definitely. And being someone that works with people, we can certainly tell a lot more. How
Some people do
are
wear.
doing,
They wear. I guess use the cliche. They wear their emotions on their shirt sleeve,
Right.
and you work with people long enough, you know when they're having a good day, and you know when they're having a bad day, because you've just become acquainted with how they respond to things. But not everyone's that way.
No.
Some people can hide how they really feel down deep and go through the motions, and no one knows unless you really want to know.
Yeah, and I think you learn a lot going through this process and this whole resiliency stuff, and that sometimes people coming to work is their escape. So they are happy at work, and that is the place that they can come in and do meaningful work and feel accomplished and this, that, and the other. And then when they leave, that's when they face it. So we don't always see that part of it. I always thought it was just all one big lump, and just not being
That's
having
why
that insight.
That's why you do need to pry if you're a caregiver or leader of people and want to know how. You got to pry a little bit, because you're right. When you ask someone how they're doing, they may think, okay, in the box that I'm in right now at work, I'm
Right.
doing good. But if you want to know how they're doing, how are things at home? How are the kids? How are other things of life? And once they step outside their work box, where they might be doing good, you find out maybe things aren't quite as good as they are letting you think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I appreciate it. What would be your suggestion in regards to you and I work together, and there's something like an event going on in my life. I have a sick parent, I'm going through a divorce, I have kids in trouble or something along that lines. What is your suggestion for keeping that dialogue open, or that interaction? Because those conversations, I think a lot of times we shy away from the tougher conversations,
And I think people shy away from it because they don't think they'll have the answer. Well, to be honest, even as a pastor, I'll tell you, I don't have all the answers. But sometimes people just want to be able to talk. So let them talk. And usually, you don't have to give the answers. Sometimes you just have to converse with them. They'll say something, you say something, they'll say something again, and through the conversation, answers come. So you don't have to be the wise old sage who knows all the answers. Just help someone work through the issues, and together two people can usually come up with the answer, just because they're willing to talk about the subject itself.
Right.
I think that's the best thing people can do. Don't be afraid to engage with people. Let them talk and tell you what's going on. You don't have to know all the answers.
Right. Yeah, because then that can be overwhelming. I got to be honest. I think I learned that a few years later in my relationship with my wife, is that she would have something and she just wanted to vent.
Yeah.
She just wanted to get it off her chest, and I was always, being the husband, I always wanted to fix it. Well, have you tried that? And then she finally said, I don't need you to give me all these advice or answers. I just want to
talk.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I learned a lot from that. And it took a few years. I'm
Of course,
slow at
you
that.
don't want to be stereotypical, but usually in relationships, that's the way it is. Guys do like to fix things, and they don't understand the issue when they can't.
Right. And then, that just makes me think back just hearing that from her is like you said, if you come in my office or I'm talking with a coworker or someone across the hall, that maybe they just want to vent when we're down in the sauna or we're going to go for a run or whatever.
Yep.
Maybe that's their vent time and I don't have to fix it. So that I think alleviates my my stresses of that I have to have these answers or I have to tell them, have this big overarching theme around it. But I can just listen and say, hey,
And that's why I think for the 101st, the addition of Chaplain Marquis, who is a female chaplain, with us, she can just take relationships with people to a whole different level that Chaplain Bach and myself can't. Just because she just has a sense of zeroing in on people where they're at and what they need, and we've really appreciated her addition in the chapel for the counseling. She gives people.
I'm sure
It's really good.
And it's sometimes it's just like a person. You just click with someone. You know
That's
what
right.
I mean?
That's
like
right.
I have a really good rapport with Bach, and not that I don't love and appreciate you, but
Sure.
I just feel like I know him pretty good. And you know what I
right.
mean? Like if I had to seek someone out, I might gravitate towards him. It's not a right or wrong thing. So
That's right.
I
Yeah.
think the more you guys have that, and the more we see you out, I think it opens that up.
Well, he does a much better job than I do. We call him, I'm the bad chaplain, and he's a good chaplain. So
Yeah, he is always pretty giddy. But we've heard him talk in the past too that he's had struggles, right? And that he's talked about those, and that you don't think maybe the chaplain even need help, or maybe your
Right.
boss is the person that needs it. So sometimes managing up or managing laterally can be challenging that
Well,
way.
just because you wear a title or a rank or whatever on your sleeve, you're not exempt. As long as you're a human being, I think the good book says it best. In this life you will have trouble, and none of us is exempt from trouble. If you're a human, you're going to have trouble. So it doesn't matter if you're a commander or a chaplain or E1 private. I mean, we're all going to have difficulties. So some people handle them and handle them alone, and that's fine. Other people need assistance from somebody else, and that's fine too. It's whatever keeps us resilient to accomplish the mission at hand.
Yeah, no, that's good. And like I said, I think this is a good time. I know we're catching up after the holidays, and people can be stressed out from playing catch up from the holidays. We're going into an inspection cycle where things get busy and we get hyper focused on things. So again, just touching base on this, getting advice from you on better ways to talk or just listen. Sometimes
I guess
can be
the best piece of advice we could tell people is, don't be afraid to ask. Sometimes I think we feel like we're invading someone's life or privacy or whatever, but if we think or sense that somebody is struggling, I mean, my goodness, don't be afraid to ask. That's what a wingman does. That's what a friend does. The least they can tell you is that they're fine. Okay, but don't be afraid to ask, and mean it when you do.
Right. No, and I think that'll make you feel better too, is knowing that you put your best foot forward to make sure, at least they know.
Right.
Maybe it's not at that point yet, but maybe it is in a month from now. And then I feel like I got to get something out. So, well, that's good. Is there anything you'd like to add, or we missed, or?
No, I think we about covered it. So
Yeah. No,
I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. No, it's been great, and I think it's valuable stuff, and it's always good to hear from you guys. So hopefully we can talk about something here again in a couple months, and go from there. All right.
Sounds
Good.
good.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So before we get into our second interview, let's talk about some of the things that are going on around the wing. First off, a few promotions. Senior Master Sergeant Grady Thurlow will be promoted to Chief this weekend. Now, despite the fact that he has an outstanding reputation as a phenomenal leader, you ask anyone who's worked with him and they'll tell you about his character. And me personally, having been on multiple trips and training missions with him, I'm pretty excited he's being promoted to Chief Master Sergeant. I'm sure I'm not alone in saying that some leaders are born while others learn that skill over time. But for him, it's both. And it shows. From my perspective, his number one priority are the people he works with. Just a quick story about him for those of you who don't know him. I went TDY with this team a few years back, and I was blown away at how hard they worked 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. When that 7th day came around, they definitely earned their day off. Instead of running off and doing his own thing with the other senior NCOs or officers, Senior Thurlow made sure everyone had rides to where they wanted to go unwind, made sure everyone got a chance to see what they wanted to see, and that no one was left out, down to the lowest ranking airman. I know that sounds silly and sort of like, duh, that's what he's supposed to do, but I guess you have to be there to know what I mean. It just sort of resonated with me. He's a really good guy and an amazing MAINEiac, so congrats, Chief Master Sergeant Select Thurlow. We had another promotion a couple days ago up in Ops from Master Sergeant Andy Robichaud. He's now a Senior Master Sergeant. And though I don't know him like I know Chief Thurlow, I've heard great things about him, particularly his work ethic. And if you're listening to this, Senior, I'm sorry I don't have more to say other than congratulations and thank you for your service. And maybe if you invite me to go TDY with you, I'll have a cool story about you when you make Chief someday. But that's all I've got. Congrats again to both of you. Let's jump into our next interview with our Wing Retention Specialist. Everyone, Master Sergeant Norm Stanton.
Hey, good morning, everyone. It's Senior Master Sergeant John Duplain. I'm down at the Force Support Squadron. Is that what we call this place?
Force Support Squadron.
Okay, great. And I'm with Norm Stanton. And we're going to hear a little bit about him and what he does down here. So, good morning, Norm. How you doing?
Good morning. Good. How are you?
Good, thanks. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
Master Sergeant Norm Stanton, like he said, I'm the Retention Office Manager and Career Assistance Advisor for the state of Maine. So I'm here to help provide assistance with any GI Bill, post 9/11 GI Bill transfer questions, bonuses, and generally assisting in anyone's career as they move forward.
Sure. So you're the type we'd come see you after we've enlisted.
Correct.
So you're the kind of that liaison that way.
Correct. I tend to do a GI Bill briefing or bonus briefing if someone's bonus eligible on enlistment day. I always follow up with members after they return from their training, or IADT, initial active duty training, so they have a better idea when they can use their benefits and
Right.
when they're going to receive their bonus payments, if that's the case.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been in over 20. Any bonuses for me?
No bonuses. 16 years is the limit, so once you hit the 16-year time in service based on your pay date,
Sure.
they no longer allow bonuses for anyone in that status.
No, that's good. Well, it never hurts to ask, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's good. So day to day, can you give us a breakdown of those types of things that you might deal with, or information that you help people out with, and maybe where they could get more information?
Yep, we get a lot of questions in my office, specifically about GI Bill kicker, using those benefits in conjunction with the state TA waiver. So we have folks that aren't sure which GI Bill they're using, when they can use it, and that sort of thing. So we'll sit down and talk to them and discuss the benefits of using
Right.
both state TA and GI Bill.
Right.
If they're authorized to kicker, they can get that also. They can use both at the same time. There are some times where it's beneficial to hold off on using your GI Bill depending on your ultimate education goals.
Right.
Sometimes it's better just to use the state TA until you get your bachelor's, and if you plan on pursuing a degree plan past that, or maybe something else, or certifications, it's good to hold on to your GI Bill that'll cover some of those,
Sure.
since the state TA only covers up to a bachelor's degree.
Right. And it seems like from talking with you earlier, everyone's case is different.
Right.
Everyone's in a different how much time, where they're at, where they're going to school, what their education goals are. So
Right.
it seems like you've got a lot of different information to give out to people.
We do, and also prior service members that come in, some of them are already eligible for the post 9/11 or the Chapter 33 GI Bill, which is a completely different GI Bill program than our traditional 6-year enlistment members have here in the Guard.
Right.
And that opens up a whole different world as far as opportunities and options for them while they're attending school.
Right. Huh. And I know personally I had to come down because I transferred some of my benefits over, and that was something I thought I could navigate on my own, and ended up having to call you, and you said, hey, get started here, and then when you get to this point, come down. I'll walk you through the rest of it. So I know that was really helpful, and my wife used it, and now my daughter's going to be heading off to school next year, so she'll be using it. So again, sometimes you don't think about these things until
Right. It's a
hit
great
you.
program, and I try to tell everybody, you don't have to wait till your kids are ready to go to school. What you really want to do is once you become eligible, stop down and see me, and I'll walk you through the process. I'll explain how the process works. If you meet the eligibility requirements for the transfer, we'll get the process started and get it approved. Once you're approved, you're in the system and ready to go. You can add to, once you have 90 days of active duty time, basic training and technical school do not count on that. So either MPA tours, Title 10, AGR, that type of thing, any deployments would count towards that time. Then you can apply for the benefit for yourself, which is the first step in the process, is to become eligible for yourself to use it first.
Gotcha. Huh. Yeah, and it just seems like it's quite a just a great bonus, or I don't know what you call it, benefit.
Yeah.
It just seems like it can really add up to a lot of money, or save people a lot of money on the back end, more than I think even you realize.
Right, and
it's
funny you said that, because we have a member currently in FSS who used all 36 months of his post 9/11 GI Bill, and went to a school here in Maine, and by the time he was done, the benefit paid out over $125,000.
Wow.
So
that's cool. I was wondering if you had numbers like that, but yeah, that's crazy. So that's something he's not going to be making a payment on over the next 10, 12, 15 years.
And if you have minor dependents and you know they're going to attend school, you can divide it however many months per dependent, and then they can take advantage of even 1 year, if you think about it, is still in that, you divide that up, just talking $25,000, $30,000,
right.
Which will assist for the final outcome of their bill at the end of the school.
Oh, absolutely. And not only are you making your drill check and your 2 weeks a year, then you're gaining all this extra, benefits that way. So, yeah, that really adds up. So that's great. Well, I'm glad we can get that information out, and I know we talked about doing this monthly,
right?
And you've been wanting to get the info out and try to help as many people as you can. So I think that's pretty cool. What did you say that we'll talk about next month? You had an idea?
Next month we'll go over the changes they've made. They implemented a change that anyone with over 16 years time in service could no longer transfer the benefit.
Yeah.
They were using this GI Bill transfer as a retention tool to get folks to re-enlist. It does come with a 4-year service commitment once you do apply for that transfer.
Yeah.
And DOD decided anyone with 16 years probably going to stay anyway.
Right.
So they tried to pass that law, but it seems like it's been rescinded.
Oh.
And we can talk more about that on next month's.
Listen up for that next month, folks, and go from there. I know there has always been a unit career advisor. In fact, I used to do it back in the day with Colonel Netto when I was in the hangar. And it seems like we're kind of kicking that back up again. Can you go over the unit career advisor program? And I know it's something you help manage.
One of the things that I recommend for all of our members is to get to know your unit career advisor. Your UCA is there to assist in not just doing the interviews that they're required to do, but they're really there to assist our members with benefit questions, career questions, and then also to complete the CMP interviews, which are twice in a 6-year enlistment.
And what are the CMP interviews?
The CMP interviews are part of the Career Motivation Program. So they have an initial interview and a re-enlistment interview. So the initial interview is kind of hey, you've completed your training. You sit down with your UCA, your unit career advisor, and kind of go over your plans and goals for your first 6-year enlistment. Then at about 12 months prior to ETS, the UCA should be sitting down with our members and completing a re-enlistment interview. And that interview is a good way to gauge how your first 6 years went in the Air National Guard and the Maine Air National Guard, and get an idea of what your future plans are. If you're planning on re-enlistment, if you're thinking separating, if you're interested in a different career field, that sort of thing.
Okay.
They can get those questions answered. They can really get an idea of what our members are planning to do at the end of their ETS.
Okay, sounds
So-
good. And what is the overall goals of this program in your opinion?
It's to sit down. The program, it gives the UCA an opportunity to sit down with the members of their unit and discuss any concerns that the member may have, answer any questions. It kind of gives them both an opportunity to get to know each other. That's why I said at the beginning, it's really important to get to know who your UCA is. They should be able to answer a lot of basic benefit questions, your GI Bill, stuff like that. And any questions they can't answer, that's why I'm here. I'm kind of the subject matter expert when it comes to GI Bill and the GI Bill transfer, so if they can't answer those, then they'll direct you to my office where I can sit down and we can go over the GI Bill stuff.
Yeah, no, that's good. And is there a commander role in that?
There is. So the UCA program in general is a commander's program. Each commander's, they run that program, they decide who the UCA is going to be, and then they take part in those CMP interviews. It's again, it's an opportunity for commanders to sit down with their folks, get to know who they are, get to know their plans. And really, it gives them an opportunity to address any issues or concerns that may be affecting the folks in their unit, and any problems or stuff that they see that's coming up.
Sure.
And answer questions that members may have of their commander.
Right. Yeah, because in a year out, you may have an opportunity to address things, or maybe there's been miscommunications or different expectations that you may have for the job. And I know Colonel Barassa, who is my commander, he's talked a lot about people, being vocal about if they want to try to do something different, if it works for the unit, and trying to make that happen, and having those conversations, I think, with the commander sometimes, that you're not 7 people removed from the commander.
Right.
You get to sit with the UCA, kind of a neutral third party. I'm not in your chain of command,
Right.
per se, and then you get to sit down with the commander and
Absolutely.
maybe talk about your goals and kind of work through that.
Absolutely.
It's a great program.
Yeah, the last thing we want our members to think, if the position they're in, the job they're in, it's not a fit for them, that's their only opportunity.
Right.
So separating is the only choice they have. We have a lot of jobs on this base, as most people know, and there's nothing wrong with cross-training into a new career. It gives you a new skill set.
Yeah.
It gives you an opportunity to try something different, and maybe find a better fit for you here on base.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. I know we were just on the morning show with George Hale and Rick Tyler, and one of the things we found out was that Andy Sinclair and Dylan Clare had both had prior careers, and that they're better off in their new jobs
Right.
because of having that experience and doing different jobs
Right.
before that. So
Yeah,
it's kind of an
absolutely.
interesting takeaway. So it's not a negative to leave security or maintenance.
Right.
It's you take that knowledge with you, those connections, kind of be able to network, know who to call in that area.
Yes, and in my opinion, it's always good. I know a lot of folks, security is a good example. They'll go to security because they want to be in law enforcement in the civilian world. They end up getting into the law enforcement job, and it really is a good chance for them to do something different
Right.
on drill weekend.
Yeah.
They come here, they're not doing the same thing they're doing on the civilian side. They're doing something a little different. Again, learning a new trade,
Yeah.
a new skill set, and it really helps. It helps break up that, always doing the same thing on
Right.
drill weekend. So it's a 12-day stretch of the same thing,
Yeah, I know that feeling.
Yes.
When you work out here full time,
Right.
it is the same, and that'd be great to switch jobs that way too. But we all take on additional responsibilities. Like I'm the UCA for wing agencies, and
Right.
it's something I wanted to do because I think it's a valuable program. And
It is. It's a great program, and any of our members that are interested in that, it opens some doors for some other opportunities for them when they become NCOs. It looks really good when they're, if they're competing for another job later on, if they're really interested in something, to have that UCA experience. They not only get to meet and interact with all the members of their unit, they kind of get an idea of something different, like you said, not doing their Monday through Friday job. The UCA program's a completely different world that they get to sit and do something different on drill weekend with that also.
Yeah, absolutely. And then exposure to your leadership too, because you're kind of working hand in hand with them to say, hey, so-and-so seems like they may want to be looking to do something different, or they're really content, and they, kind of talk about those things.
Absolutely.
So working with your commanders, never a bad thing.
Right, yeah.
I think we get a lot of it covered. It seems like, we covered the bases with it, and that's kind of what we wanted to get done this one. Like I said, going forward, I think it'll be a great addition to the podcast, having you on, talking about the benefits, changes, good or bad, that need to be put out. That way people, at least it's another avenue for them to be aware of those changes, and it's another springboard for you to kind of get that info out. So
Right. Absolutely.
Look forward to sharing that. Is there anything you wanted to add or put in
That's
there?
really it. Just thanks for the opportunity to kind of spread this out there, get this word out, and hopefully we can continue, like you said. And if anything new with ops guidance that comes out, with GI Bill stuff, it'll be a good opportunity, good platform for me to get that word out there to the masses.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll have that in the podcast. So, yeah, and if anyone has suggestions, or if Sergeant Stan gets a lot of questions, then he can kind of answer those. Because if one or two people are having them at the same time, then maybe we can answer it for a lot of people too. So kind of word of mouth that way. But appreciate you coming on with me, and we'll catch up next month for sure. So
All right, sounds
do it all
good.
over again. Thanks.
All right, thank you.
This episode's MAINEiac Fact is brought to us by the 101st Air Refueling Wing Aircraft Electrical and Environmental Systems. I can see why it's called E&E. We all know that we have highly trained electricians in our civil engineering squadron. But did you know that we have a total separate team of specialists who work on the electrical systems on our birds? All of our aircraft rely on electricity and technology in order to work both safely and effectively. Responsible for maintaining and repairing the wiring and electrical components on an aircraft, E&D specialists make sure our planes are working at optimal condition. From cabin pressurization to engine control, these experts play a critical role in keeping our aircraft and our airmen safe and able to complete each mission. If you or someone you know is interested in E&E, you know what to do. What's the difference between a base, a fort, and a camp? No, this isn't a start to some weak joke, although I guess it could be. But really though, what's the difference? I've researched a little, but I haven't found anything solid. Nothing that relates to our modern age anyway. I used to think it was the size of the installation, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Maybe the mission? Of course, we also have stations and fields as well. If you happen to know the answer, let me know. Of course, in Bangor, it's called a base. The Bangor Air National Guard Base, to be exact. And it's been that way for a long time. Right? Well, we've talked in past episodes about how the Air National Guard, specifically the Maine Air National Guard, has been around since February of 1947. And for those of you who paid attention in history class or Airman Leadership School, that's a whopping 7 months before Big Air Force's birthday. Pretty cool. But just because we've been around for 73 years doesn't mean there's always been a base here in Bangor. Well, not technically. You see, prior to 1983, we were known merely as a corner of our city's vaster complex, the Bangor International Airport. I'm sure MAINEiacs and the public all referred to our organization as a base, but technically speaking, we weren't. So for 36 years, we had no home? Not exactly. We just weren't a base yet. But January 20th, 1983, that all changed. Special Order Number GA6 changed our official location from being at the Bangor International Airport to the Bangor Air National Guard Base. The order was issued by Bolling Air Force Base in Washington, D.C. And actually, the order retroactively changed the name dating back to October 16th of 82. A cool piece of history you may or may not have known. Another cool tidbit is, like I mentioned, the Maine Air Guard has been around since February of 47. That's before the Air Force and certainly before Dow Air Force Base. So what was it before? Because actually planes had been landing here in Bangor since 1927, 20 years before the Maine Air Guard was around. Within those 20 years, the name had changed a few times. But the name that started it all, the grandfather of all names, was Godfrey. Godfrey Field was here 93 years ago and is a whole nother topic in itself. Maybe for a future episode. And just like the Patriots in this year's playoffs, I'm out. Too soon? Another quick congratulations to Chief Master Sergeant Thurlow and Senior Master Sergeant Robichaud on your promotions. Very cool stuff. Also a shout out to Chief Sousa, who is retiring after a long and distinguished career. He's done a lot for our organization, state, and country, so if you see him around, be sure to congratulate him. Another thing that I wanted to mention is that we have an ESGR boss lift coming up. For those of you who don't know what that is, in a nutshell, a boss lift gives you, as a Guard member, the opportunity to nominate your civilian employer to come out for a day and fly on a KC-135. A unique opportunity, and it's definitely something you should check out. Another quick note, we're all recruiters. Be sure to spread the good word. If you haven't done so already, be sure to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, iTunes, iHeartRadio. The list is growing. Search for 101 STARW. We also have an app. You can head over to our Facebook page for an instructional video on how to set up that app, but it's pretty straightforward. But that's all she wrote. Have a great drill, stay safe. Oh, and don't forget about the Safe MAINEiac program if you need a ride home. It's better to play it safe than to be locked in one. I'm Master Sergeant Andy Sinclair. Thanks for listening.